I'm Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs, and I'm proud to represent the border community of San Diego. Let's clear up some common misconceptions. One, seeking asylum is legal under both domestic and international law. Now, what does that mean? It means that you have a legal right to come to a country that you feel is safe. And if you are fleeing political persecution, if you are afraid for your life, you can seek asylum. This law was actually put in place because when Jews were fleeing the Holocaust, countries wouldn't take them in. And that's where this international right to asylum came from. Two, asylum seekers are different than refugees who get processed in third countries and are different than people who are coming here and trying to just get a job or help in our economy. Asylum seeking is fleeing political persecution. Now that we've cleared that up, let's talk about what's actually happening at the border and what Donald Trump's executive orders would actually do. First, he's getting rid of the CBP One app. This is a tool that CBP, Customs and Border Protection, used to create a more orderly process for people who are coming to this country to seek asylum. It allowed people to make appointments so they didn't just have to show up, but they knew when to show up, and CBP knew that they would have the resources to process these people. So instead of this more orderly process, Donald Trump is getting rid of it, and that will create a less orderly process, the opposite of what we need. Second, the Remain in Mexico policy. We saw before when the Remain in Mexico policy was instated, when you make people wait in Mexico, they are often more susceptible to the cartels, and it actually makes the situation a lot worse. Three, sending our troops to the southern border. San Diego is a proud military community, and I serve on the House Armed Services Committee, so I spend a lot of time thinking about how and where we need to be using the U.S. military. There are lots and lots of threats all around the world. We do not need to be diverting our military's resources and focus from those threats to do the work of the Department of Homeland Security on our border. That is not the military's job. And lastly, designating the cartels as a foreign terrorist organization. There's a few problems with this. The first is that it will make it much harder for nonprofit groups who often are the ones helping immigrants and asylum seekers. It will make it harder for them to do their jobs because they will fear that by doing that, they'll be at risk of legal liability. The same thing that we've seen nonprofits have issues with when we designate organizations around the world as foreign terrorist organizations. But the second and more important, this is a military first approach to a problem that is inherently not a military problem. People are fleeing their countries because of bad governance, of corruption, lack of safety. And we've seen when we try and take a military first approach to these kinds of issues, like we did in Iraq and Afghanistan, we can sometimes make the problem worse. And the last thing we need is in Afghanistan on our southern border. Now that I've told you why everything Donald Trump is trying to do is actually going to make things worse, you may be asking yourself what will make things better. In order to have a more orderly approach at our border, we need more legal pathways, not less, because legal pathways allow an orderly process and a process to be able to vet every person who is coming through that legal pathway. I've also been told that making it harder to seek asylum, making the threshold higher, actually wouldn't help Border Patrol at all. It would just mean they have to spend more time with each asylum seeker, taking them away from the parts of their job we need them to be doing, like securing the border. So we need more case officers. We need more people who can more quickly adjudicate these asylum cases. And lastly, we need to focus on the root causes and the reasons that people are fleeing their countries and migrating to the United States. And that means more assistance to some of these countries. And that means really focusing on governance and corruption issues. Donald Trump does not understand the border. And what he's doing is actually going to make the situation more chaotic. I, a representative of a border community, will keep pushing back on this chaos and keep working towards a common sense solution where we can have an orderly and humane process at our border.